Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another SerpentZA live stream. This is going to be speaking about a very specific topic, and that is the prevalence of Chinese students who study overseas, and the whole thing about them cheating in order to gain entrance into universities. Before we continue though, let me just say that I am joined today, although he won't be really taking part, but I am currently joined today by my friend here, ADVChina.
ADVChina here. I hope you guys enjoy the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, this is our studio. This is where we work. We've just gotten back from Vietnam. We've got so much work to get through, and we sit here and we just edit and we do our thing. So yeah, we're catching up on some ADVChina stuff so we can make sure it's ready by Monday for you guys. I've got a fantastic episode coming up about Vietnam.
I have very little time to finish this edit, so excuse me.
Yeah, so I'll let him get back to work. As you can see, there he is diligently working in the corner. And I'll get back to it. So recently in the news, I read an article actually while we were in the plane coming back from Vietnam. I read this article about 6 pretty high-profile people being busted for basically forging entrance exams for international Chinese students. So what happens is, in order to study overseas in America and Australia and any sort of Western country, English-speaking country, you need to pass either a TEFL or a TOEFL or an IELTS exam, depending on where you're going. IELTS is for the UK. And the TOEFL exam is for America and those other countries. And what this means is that you reach a certain level of English. And of course, it's necessary. If you're going to go and study in school overseas, in a college, you need to be able to understand your professor, because the professors are not going to speak Chinese to you, right, in America. And the same goes if you want to study in a Chinese university. You have to reach HSK 6, I believe it is. And that just means Hanyu Shuiping Kaoshi, which means your Chinese level. And if you reach a certain level, then you can get admitted into a Chinese university and you can study as a foreigner. Of course, if you're studying a Chinese language course, you don't need that. But if you're going to go and study engineering or anything in China, you need to have that HSK 6 and above. So you have a similar thing for the international students coming to America and the other countries. They have to pass a certain level of proficiency in English. Now, I have some inside information into all of this because a couple of years ago, I had a friend who ran a company. And the whole point of his company was to help Chinese students get into universities in the UK. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say the name of his company because I don't want to throw him under the bus. Because he's quite a nice guy. But what he was doing was he was gaming the system as, this is what happens in China. It's actually part of Chinese society, is this whole, it's more about who you know, not what you know. And so what they would do is they had someone that worked in the British consulate who would help them with the visa applications, smooth over the process, kind of person that they'd be taking out for dinners and, maybe greasing the palms every once in a while. But one of the main requirements for the British universities and colleges that these students were going to is that you have to write sort of an essay, which tells them about yourself and, gives an introduction and what you like and all that sort of thing. And you choose a topic. They had a list of topics you could choose from, and then you'd write about it. Now, of course, this is what they use to gauge your grammar and your level of English. Now, I first got approached by him and he sent me something. He's like, hey man, a friend of mine wants to, I can't even remember what the pretense was, but he was like, a friend of mine has written this thing and he just wants you to check over it and, correct any mistakes. And I thought, well, okay, I'll take a look at it for you. I'm just a friend. I'll see. So I took a look and it was horrendous. It looked like somebody had written something in Chinese, pushed it through Google Translate, and then, just put it in a document. And that's actually what it turned out to be. The grammar was all wrong. It made no sense whatsoever. And I scratched my head and I tried my best to rewrite this thing for him. It literally meant I would have to rewrite the entire document. So there I was, trying to figure this out. And I just realized from the language that this was probably not like someone my age. It seemed like it was more like someone a bit younger. And I just thought there's something wrong about this. So I asked him, like, what's really the deal here? Because I didn't work for the guy at the time. I knew him, and I'd met him because he needed help trying to recruit English teachers for some or other summer camp that he ran, you see. So he got a hold of me because he knew at the time that I was doing English teaching and that sort of thing. And he said, well, you know, these guys, they need to write an essay for the college and they just need a little bit of help. And I found out that what he's been doing is he's actually been approaching sort of just random foreign English teachers that he knows and getting them to rewrite these essays and correcting the grammar. And then he sends that off to the British universities as as if it was the student that wrote it, you see. And I was kind of appalled when I found out about this because, that's just fraud, really. That's lying. You don't say that this Chinese student has written this English essay when it's actually a bloody English teacher or a random foreigner friend of his that's rewritten it. And that gave me an introduction to this whole thing. So, I mean, you have people like him and his company, and their sole focus is to get students into overseas colleges. So what they do is they give these kids like a very intense crash course on how to answer certain types of questions, right? And how to write certain things and all the correct things to do and say. They then get foreigners to write the entrance essays, which they will then send off to the colleges themselves. And then they also kind of finagle and grease the palms of someone working in the consulate that's approving the visas as well to kind of smooth over the process. And they make a lot of money because in China at the moment, the rich and even just the middle class, because China has a massive, I would like to say emerging, but it's not, it has emerged. They have a massive emerged middle class. And for years, it's always been the thing. If you have money, is to send your children overseas for a better education. And they'll send them especially to England, America, and Australia, and Canada. Those are the sort of top ones that they choose. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, it's actually very good for the children to get an international education because when they return to China, they're more sought after by companies. Because if you've received a foreign education, it's seen as superior to a Chinese education. The attitude towards this has changed in recent years, however, and it's, because China's kind of looking inward these days. If you have an education from a prestigious Chinese university like Tsinghua, you are seen as actually being better educated than if you'd gone overseas. That's the recent thing. But number one, it's for the benefit of the children to give them a better education, which is fantastic. Number two, it's of course social status to say, oh, my son or my daughter is overseas studying in England or in America. Of course, it's a lot more, prestigious. And in a culture of face like China, it means a lot. Number three, it's a fantastic way to get money out of the country. What happens is when you have students studying overseas, it's a great channel for the parents to send funds. Like every single time the children visit home, they usually get sent back with cash on their person, either reaching just the maximum amount that they're allowed to take, or they hide more cash here and there. I know this for a fact because I was approached so many times by my Chinese friends every single time that I'm traveling anywhere. Like, hey, I know you're going here. Can you take like $5,000 for me? I'll give you a couple of $100 to do it. That type of thing. It's a very common thing that happens in China because, and I'm not going to blame Chinese people for doing this because the regulations on getting money out of China are so strict and so harsh that if you try to do it through the banks or anything like that, it's next to impossible these days to get any decent amount of money out of the country. So not only that, they can also, through their children, get the children to invest in property in Canada or Australia or the UK and so on. And it's fairly easy for them to do that. and so, look, there are tons of things they can do. Open trust funds, invest in this, that, and the next thing. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that it's very beneficial for the Chinese children to study overseas, not only for their education, but also for investment opportunities, and so on and so forth. And that's why you get these little companies like the one that my friend runs, which specialize in this, and they get paid so much money. Each child that gets successfully sent overseas earns that company, a ton of money. And I'm not going to speculate how much. All I know is that it is a hell of a lot. Hundreds of thousands of RMB, which is probably somewhere around. Let me ask Similk here. Hey, Similk.
Hey.
Let me get you on here. How much is about, say, 250,000 RMB?
You're gonna have to do some quick math.
Okay, yeah, get that calculator going.
About 30 grand.
About 30 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, I think, the entry level that these parents are paying these agents to actually get them admitted into the colleges overseas.
Wow, that's super expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing and hearing talk of that in the office when I was there.
Right.
So I think to get basic package this and that, it's probably about 60,000 RMB, and it goes up, depending if they want the foreigner to write the essay for them, and all that kind of stuff, and all the coaching, and that sort of, they do that intense kind of parrot learning thing where they teach them how to answer specific questions when you have an interview at the college. And I remember they actually asked me to do that. And I have a quick question for you. Were you ever asked to do anything like this?
Many, many, many times. Actually, it might even happen more in these like smaller cities where they're used to breaking the rules a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I had my own, language training center, and the adults that I would train would ask me if I could do that for their kids. That was like part of their tuition, basically.
Okay.
I should help them out with that.
I got you. Cool.
Yeah. Actually, just yesterday, like 5 people in California were arrested for participating in this stuff.
Yeah, so that's kind of what sparked this all off.
Okay, cool.
I was just telling everyone that I read that on the plane, as we've just arrived, and I thought it's something to cover. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. Cool.
Well, thanks for your help. I'll let you
You're
get
welcome.
back to work once again. There's Seamilk getting back to work for those of you who are...
Okay, no.
Okay. All right. So anyway, there's a lot of money to be made, and so you understand why this kind of thing happens. It's very unscrupulous, but here's why it's easy for Chinese people to do this, okay? Number one, the language barrier. I can't say enough just how much a person can get away with when people can't understand them and understand what's going on, right? So this massive language barrier on both sides kind of leads to a situation where you just kind of trust the other person to be doing the right thing, because you can't really understand what they're saying, what's going on. You can't understand what's being written. So if you come across like their phone messages, it's all in Chinese, you can't read it. If you have two students talking to each other in Chinese, you can't understand. So you think everything's hunky-dory. So that's definitely the number one reason, is the massive big language barrier. Number two is a lot of Westerners think that Chinese people all look alike. And you can't deny it. It's the same for Chinese people think that all foreigners look alike. It's just the same way that black people think white people look alike, and white people think black people look alike, and etc., etc., etc. It's just built into us. Unless you have a lot of experience living amongst, people different to yourself, it's difficult to tell the difference in facial features and so on and so forth. So what happens is, what happened in the States anyway, is that people were using fake passports to go in and write these entrance exams in the US colleges. And so they would hire a Chinese guy or a Chinese girl who kind of looked similar to them. They would go in, they'd sit down, they'd write the exams, and whoever's proctoring the exam would look at the passport, which by the way would have had a doctored photo in it anyway of the person there. They'd say, oh yeah, that's the person, let them pass. They passed. When the real student arrives, they can't tell the difference between the person that wrote the exam and the person that actually comes in, because like I said, there's that whole thing about not being able to tell the difference. Same haircut, same hair color, same eye color, similar features, and it's difficult to tell the difference. I guess it's just the way it is. So that's another reason why a lot of these guys get away with doing this kind of thing. Of course, there's a lot of sort of bribery and nonsense involved as well in a lot of these things. But it basically comes down to the fact that China is opaque. And that's something I've always tried to change with my videos, is I've tried to show what China really is like on the streets. And having lived there for so long and getting to know people so well, you know, it's not opaque to me. But I can imagine that if I was a university professor and I had this aspiring student who wanted to come over, and they've written this lovely essay, which it seems to be written pretty well, maybe a mistake or two here or there, but it seems pretty good. The student has glowing credentials, and this is something that you also have to bear in mind, is that especially overseas, the Chinese universities tend to give better marks just because they want their reputation to be better. And also, if you're in a well-connected family, it's very easy to make sure that your child has good marks. On top of that, don't forget that most Chinese students do study incredibly hard and do get good marks on top of that. But not being able to speak English is a massive problem. If you're going to go and study in a school overseas and you can't understand your professor, like I said, what's the point? I wouldn't want to go to Russia to study if I couldn't understand Russian. But again, it's all the prestige and it's the investment opportunities and stuff which actually drives this whole thing forward. So there you are, you're a university professor, you have this application on your desk, everything seems great, the student comes in for an interview, you ask them a bunch of basic questions, you know, what do you like, what are your hobbies, and they answer very fluently and it seems great, although they've been practicing for a month in front of a special teacher teaching them. If they say hobby, if you hear the word hobby, you say MBA, you say, you know, playing sports, I love fishing, you know what I mean? It's all very coached. So you've got all the credentials that look good, you've got a very well-written essay, you have an interview with the student which, you know, seems fantastic, and they seem great, and they're bright, and they're young, and you think they're passionate, and you're like, okay, admitted. And then when they get into your class and you ask very basic questions, and they struggle and they don't understand, or they just sit there quietly in a corner and you think maybe they're understanding, that's when things fall apart, and that's when it becomes very difficult. And the way the West is set up, it's very difficult to kick someone out because they don't understand what you're saying, you know, because of a language barrier, and it's embarrassing, and you don't want to do it because at the end of the day, I don't blame the students, okay? Probably because I have so many Chinese friends and Chinese family, I tend to want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think cheating is wrong. I think fraud and gaming the system is wrong. But I don't want to put the blame on the student. I would rather put the blame on society and the parents that actually push for this. You know, that's my 2 cents anyway. I think I've said just about everything that needs to be said about this whole thing. There's just one thing that I'd like to add to all of this, and that is be aware that this is what's going on. Be aware that there are companies and systems put in place in China in order to facilitate this. They are very professional, they're very dedicated, and they're earning a lot of money. So you're going to have to be very, very, very vigilant. If you are a university professor who's looking at these applications, you have to be hyper vigilant. And what I would suggest is, if you do sit down in an interview with a potential student, is throw big oddball questions. You know, for instance, just say, do you like green socks? Something like that, you know, something that they would not be prepared for. And that way you can really gauge whether it's just coached parrot answers or, you know, their real ability. Because there are, of course, Chinese students who have fantastic English ability. So, you know, you can't group them all in the same barrel, if that makes any sense. So, guys, it's time for me to finish this off. I would like to answer a question or two if it's possible. So, I wonder if Simil can help me out with this.
Sure.
Okay, let's get you on there, Simil. You've got some questions up there. Do we have any super chats today?
We do not.
We have no super chats. There's no love,
Well,
I guess.
What we do have is
Yeah.
everyone was claiming that this wasn't live, so we have to do something to prove it's live. So what I'll do
Okay.
is type in the chat and be like, yo, green socks.
Okay.
And I wrote souks instead.
Okay, so yo green socks. Wait, let's get that. Yeah, yo green socks. This is live.
This is live.
Absolutely
Got
live.
a lot of trolls saying it wasn't, but it was very much live.
People just don't believe us, do they?
Yeah. A lot of people mentioned the Gaokao and how bad that is. Do you think that? This is a question I saw earlier. Do you think the Gaokao, the reason that Chinese students have to be so diligent and waste their entire childhood and throw that away, is that do you think that has an effect on them wanting a little bit easier way of getting into the university?
Yeah, sure. I mean that's totally something that changes. When it comes to Western sort of attitude towards education and Chinese, in China, you work really hard to get into college or university. That's your whole thing. And then when you're in college or university, you coast by.
Yeah.
And it's the opposite in the West.
So there's almost no fail rate. It's like 99% pass rate in university.
Absolutely. So when it comes to in the West, you coast kind of through high school. That's when you just bum around a bit. Then when you get into university or college, that's when you really put the hammer down and you get to work.
Correct.
So I think what happens is they kind of expect they're just going to get past and things will be okay. And then there's a nasty shock where it's actually, you got to work really hard.
Right.
So that definitely has something to do with it, yeah.
Okay. Flesh Mincer.
Okay.
With a $1.99 super chat, thank you.
Yay! I earned almost $2 in this one. You guys are awesome.
Hey guys, love your vids. Where are you right now?
Right now, we are currently back at our main head office, which we've just set up, and as you can see, it's kind of a mess. We're kind of trying to get it all together.
We'd show you, but it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's really embarrassing. We're currently in LA.
Yes.
So we've set up a little thing here in LA. We will be going back and forth between LA and whatever destination. Just got back from Vietnam. It was insane. It was fantastic. Can't wait to show you guys all of the footage. I know we've put out 1 or 2 episodes that we were editing while we were there.
Right.
But it's kind of difficult to edit when you're in a hotel room,
Yep. We'll take a couple more of these. Wandering Marine Veteran.
Okay.
Says, I'll visit China. Which camera am I looking at?
That one.
This one.
That one.
I'll visit China to learn more about T plus language. And for a new channel idea with about T. Do either of you enjoy T's?
Well, I'll start. I don't know if you do. But when I got to China, I didn't think I'd be in China long in the beginning.
Right.
I thought, I want to take something home with me. I want to take some of this experience. So I went out and I bought a tea set. The Chinese, bought a little tea table, got a little teapot, little teacups, a special tea and all that, all the tea tools. They got little tweezers and stirrers and all that crap. And I was like, hell yeah, this is so cool. Because I'd seen a girl do the Kung Fu tea thing.
Right.
It's kind of impressive. It's all this. So I kind of got into that. It's like, yeah, this is awesome. And and then, and then I realized I really don't like the taste of it. So I kind of left. When I left China, I left that tea table behind.
I don't like tea.
No.
I don't mind iced tea, not the wrapper.
Yeah.
Like the actual beverage, from the South.
I got you.
Not Southern China. I don't like Chinese tea. I'm sorry. It's not offensive to me. It doesn't taste very good to me.
No. I'm not a huge fan of it because I do actually like normal sort of British,
it's
tea,
okay.
Tea with milk and sugar type thing. But there's a huge thing around tea. It's like wine in the West.
Right.
It's worth exploring for sure.
Some people love it and get super into it. And I know it's a deep thing.
I do like pu'er chowder.
It's okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty
not
good.
bad. Yeah. Cool.
A couple more here. Random 1208. Talk about North Korea.
North Korea is kind of annoying.
It's annoying because we did see Kim Jong-un in Hanoi.
Yeah, we were actually there during this Trump Kim Jong-un summit thing.
By accident.
We didn't actually know it was happening, and then there are North Korean flags everywhere. Whoa! Don't worry, we're back. Sorry, this camera. Excuse that. There were North Korean flags next to the American flag and peace symbols everywhere. We got some cool T-shirts. It was fun. And then we actually got to wave at Donald Trump as he drove by in his limousine.
We did.
Yeah, whether he saw us or not, I don't know.
Got a lot of hate for that for some reason, just because we were there.
Why can't we wave at the president of a country?
I would have waved at Kim Jong-un as well.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. It was cool. The vibe was awesome. Remember,
it was super cool.
The limo drove past and everyone was cheering. It was awesome.
It was fun.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, so we got to see them.
Mike Huter with a big one, $25. Thank you. Will the Vietnam EPs run like those for Taiwan or feature like CNC or CSE?
Those are going to be like the Taiwan ones.
Yes.
Except probably a little bit more chronological. The Taiwan ones are kind of like mixed up depending on our mood or what was fitting at the time. By the way, there still are more Taiwan episodes.
There are. They're just not time sensitive.
Yeah.
They're very general stuff. So.
Yeah, so, we will be releasing more Taiwan stuff in the future, but we want to get stuck into the Vietnam stuff. Remember, we focus on Vietnam a lot, but remember, it's just a place, and it's more about covering topics that are important to us.
Right.
So we will be we did discuss things about China while we were in Vietnam, and a lot of comparisons.
There's so many great comparisons.
Yeah, there are, 100%.
Izzy with $2. Love from New Zealand. It's terrible what happened recently. Yeah, we heard about that.
Yeah, no, that sucks. I think it doesn't matter what you believe, there's no excuse for violence.
Just don't cause rifts like this.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah.
Christine, PFS, what was your favorite place that you visited in Vietnam?
That's kind of tough. I'd like to say Hanoi.
Okay.
I would like to say Hanoi, but I did find it a bit annoying, as we say, simply because it is too touristy for my liking.
Sure. I mean, you can get away from that very quickly.
You can. But I love the food in Hanoi, the beer in Hanoi, the vibe in Hanoi was great.
Yeah.
It really was great. We walked, remember that time we walked like something stupid like 8 miles or something in that day? And we went like far out trying to just find interesting stuff. And
it was very interesting.
We spent the whole day walking and we just got away from that, the old quarter. That's where all the touristy stuff is in that old, the old French quarter. We got out there and it was super cool to see the differences.
We saw the real life and we filmed everything, so don't worry. I like Hanoi the best as well. All over the country. It gets very rural and it's very beautiful, but Hanoi is the most booming and feels so energetic.
Yeah, it's awesome. Cool.
All right.
Is that it?
That's it. Why don't we do the little tell everyone our schedule?
Oh yeah, let's tell everyone the schedule. So, once again, guys, every single Friday you can come back and see another SerpentZA video. Next week will be a regular one, not a live stream. Please forgive the live stream, but the whole thing is.
People love it.
Yeah, we just got back. We haven't had time to catch our breath.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get some ADV stuff ready for Monday.
Sure.
So by next Wednesday, you'll have a regular Lao 86. I'll have a regular SerpentZA on Friday, right? So come back on Friday for a SerpentZA video, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Wednesday, you can go and see him, Lao 86. Wait, let me get him in there. There, Lao 86.
There'll be a card right here. You guys can.
Yeah, exactly. You can go and see him, and of course the most important one on Monday, ADVChina.
The one I'm making right now.
Yeah, exactly. Stick around for that one because this is the 10 things that you probably don't know about Vietnam. That's coming up.
And we almost died in the road.
Oh, we did. It's a fun one, so stick around for that on Monday. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, you know the drill. Stay awesome. And let me try to figure out how to turn this off. Stay awesome. Stay awesome. Keep staying awesome. And